Today, we're diving into the habits of the millionaire next door. We're going to dive deep into some of the items that they do, and I think a lot of it is going to debunk some myths. I'm Andrew Raffel, and John Jangle. We're coming to you from the Dream Plan Retire studio. So, John, we get a lot of questions from people of like, how do I get to be a millionaire? So there's kind of two types. There's the extravagant millionaire, and then more so what we see, the millionaire next door. So let's talk about, over the years with the clients we've worked with, what typifies a millionaire next door?
Yeah,
what are they doing?
They're hiding right under our nose. What we see a lot of times is they are notoriously frugal. So that is understanding their income, understanding their expenses, and not really spending more than they need to on flashy items, being very cognizant of their expenses and where their money is going. So back to timeline and purpose. What is this money meant for? What are my needs? What are my wants? Are my wants justified? So on and so forth.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that they're not living the life they want. They just look at things like cars, for instance. A lot of them don't need the flashy car. They'll drive their car on average 5 to 7 years and don't need to look at that as a status symbol.
Right. And understanding that is a depreciating asset. Cars are a big one, especially as prices have gone up. Cars have gotten more expensive. So the longer you can make one last, obviously is going to impact that bottom line more too. So looking at practicality, I think, is really important for that type of individual.
Another thing we notice is that they are long-term planners, meaning they started early, they stayed the course, and they understood that it's, for a lot of them, it didn't happen overnight, but by sticking to not just staying on budget, but starting to invest at an early age and taking advantage of that law of compounding, little wins become big wins. And a lot of them, we see a lot of them never made, 3, 4, 500,000.
Right.
They grinded it out. Maybe they weren't even an entrepreneur. They were W-2, and they were able, though, to save, live within their means, and then they hit retirement and they've got everything they need.
Yeah, I think it's a big trap we fall into in our modern times too, is we see everything so quickly and expect things to happen overnight. But really it does come down to having patience and letting your plan develop and being able to make small adjustments here and there, but really kind of understanding yourself. So a lot of it is relative too.
Yeah, and another thing we see is yes, they are investing, whether it's 401ks or brokerage accounts, but a lot of these millionaire next doors have multiple streams of income. So that could be things like real estate investing, where they've got a couple properties and then they've worked hard to pay those off. So they have this income coming in, this passive income that allows them to generate money while they're sleeping.
Yeah, exactly. So, we always hear when investing, diversification. That's not just siloed to stocks and bonds. It's what types of assets am I putting my money towards? So like you mentioned, having some of that market exposure, but then also having real estate, maybe having some of that entrepreneurial spirit, which I know we'll get into as well, where just kind of good at monetizing different things that they're doing on a daily basis.
Yeah, and on that front, the entrepreneurial side, again, not every millionaire has to be an entrepreneur, but we do see a lot of these millionaire next doors that grew a mom and pop business. They maybe didn't have 100 employees and never made huge income, weren't going to sell it to somebody, but along the way, being an entrepreneur allows them to take stake in their income and expenses and be able to maybe put some things through the business. But is that, type A and that thinking of trying to build something and being creative in nature. So we do see that. It doesn't mean you have to be, but we do see that entrepreneur.
Well, and I think the reason we see more entrepreneurs who are millionaires is when you're running a business like that, whether it's a mom and pop or, a dozen people to 100 people, all of those other items we just talked about with frugality and having a plan, that naturally is going to flow into running your business too. So you kind of have all of those other areas as a prerequisite, which I think helps in growing that wealth.
Right. And lastly, you see somebody with, lots of millions and millions of dollars, but because they maybe haven't budgeted correctly or they have these very high expenses, they are not in the same position as somebody who may only have and I say only, but $1 to $2 million. So again, if we look at these, debunking the myths, it's what, John? What are the major points?
So frugality, which just is understanding income, understanding expenses, diversification of your investments. So again, not just market-based investments, understanding your cash flow, giving yourself time to let your plan develop and sticking to that plan. And, if you have a great idea, if you're good at something that, hey, you're great on cars and you like doing that, maybe that could be a little bit of a side hustle, and you never know what it might turn into.
Great points. So hope this was helpful to unlock the habits of the millionaire next door. It is not that hard to achieve. Stay focused on starting early and sticking to your plan. We hope you appreciate this video. If you do, please subscribe. We're here for you. Happy planning, everybody.